It appears the microwave is causing signal loss to a TV connected to a satellite dish. Here are some possible causes and troubleshooting steps. Firstly, consider interference from the microwave. Microwaves emit electromagnetic radiation that can interfere with satellite signals, typically when operating in close proximity to the receiver. Secondly, examine the cable or receiver for faults. A defective cable connecting the satellite dish to the receiver can cause signal loss. A faulty receiver may also be responsible for intermittent signal drops. Thirdly, check for a weak satellite signal. If the satellite dish is not properly aligned, or if there is excessive foliage or weather interference, the signal strength may be weak, potentially leading to signal loss when the microwave is operating. Fourthly, consider wall or building interference. Walls or other building structures can sometimes block or reflect satellite signals, causing interference with the microwave's emissions. Now, let's discuss some troubleshooting steps. Firstly, test the cable and receiver. Disconnect the cable from the microwave and connect it directly to the receiver. If the signal is restored, the cable may be faulty. If the signal is still lost, the receiver may need to be replaced. Secondly, adjust the satellite dish. Contact a satellite dish installer to check the alignment and adjust it if necessary. Thirdly, check for obstructions. Ensure that there are no trees, buildings, or other obstructions blocking the line of sight between the satellite dish and the satellite. Fourthly, use a microwave interference filter. Install a microwave interference filter between the microwave and the satellite receiver. This can help block the interfering emissions from the microwave. Fifthly, try using a different microwave. Use a different microwave model to see if the interference persists, as some microwaves may emit less interference than others. If the problem affects only one TV and not the other, it is unlikely to be an issue with the satellite dish or the signal strength. It is more likely a problem with the TV cable or receiver for that specific TV. You can test the cable by disconnecting the cable from the satellite receiver and testing it with a multimeter to confirm that the inner conductor is not shorted to the outer ground sheath. Next, test the continuity of the cable to ensure it is continuous end to end and is not internally broken. If a break exists, this can reduce the power of the signal being received. If possible, bore a known good cable from the other television receiver, if it is long enough, to see if it fixes the problem on the affected television receiver. If using a borrowed known good cable resolves the problem, then replace the original cable with a new cable. You can also consider the power going to the microwave. A microwave typically requires a dedicated 120 volts 20 amp circuit, as it will draw significant current when in operation. If the microwave shares a circuit with other high current appliances, then this could cause voltage fluctuations which can cause a problem to the satellite receiver. You can use a multimeter to measure the voltage at the wall outlet that the microwave is plugged into and confirm that it is close to 120 volts. Then, turn on the microwave and monitor the voltage to see if it drops significantly while it is operating. If it drops to a significant level, such as under 110 volts, then it may be best to plug the microwave into a different outlet that is on a dedicated circuit. Another consideration is the location of the microwave itself and how close it is to the television receiver and the associated cabling for the television receiver. Microwaves emit significant electromagnetic interference, and if the microwave is too close to the TV cabling, then this may cause problems. Try relocating the microwave as far away as possible from the TV receiver and the TV cabling. Next, check all of the cabling connections to make sure that they're tight and secure. If the cable connections are loose, then the signal can be degraded. Also, inspect the connectors for any signs of corrosion. Remove the connectors and then use a wire brush to clean any corrosion that exists. The satellite receiver may have diagnostic options in its configuration menus. Explore the configuration menus for the satellite receiver to see if it is reporting the signal strength or signal quality of the incoming satellite signal. This can help to determine if there is a weak satellite signal overall, or if the signal quality is low due to interference. If possible, compare the signal strength and quality of the affected television receiver with the signal strength and quality of the unaffected television receiver. This may help to determine if a weak signal or low signal quality is the problem. Another factor to consider is the age of the microwave, as the components of the microwave may degrade over time. The shielding of the microwave may have degraded over time, allowing it to emit more electromagnetic interference than it did when it was new. If you have an older microwave, consider replacing it with a newer microwave, as the newer microwave may have better shielding against electromagnetic interference. Check to make sure that the antenna on the outside of the building is firmly affixed to the side of the building. The satellite dish antenna should not move around in a wind. If the antenna moves around, then this could cause the signal to fluctuate. If the antenna is loose, then try to tighten the mounting bolts to firmly affix the antenna to the building. Also, make sure that the coaxial cable connected to the antenna is in good condition and that the connections are tight. It may be necessary to hire a professional antenna installer to properly align the satellite dish antenna. The antenna installer has specialized equipment and tools to precisely align the antenna. The antenna installer will also have a signal meter that can measure the signal strength of the incoming signal from the satellite. You can also consider moving the satellite receiver to a different location, further away from the microwave. The further away the satellite receiver is from the microwave, the less likely it is to be affected by the electromagnetic interference emitted by the microwave. Sometimes, the electromagnetic interference emitted by the microwave can overwhelm the satellite receiver, causing it to lose signal. However, sometimes the electromagnetic interference can simply degrade the signal, which causes it to flicker on and off. Electromagnetic interference from outside sources can affect the satellite receiver, and this interference can come from other devices or appliances in the home. For example, some dimmer switches emit significant amounts of electromagnetic interference which can affect nearby electronic equipment. If there are dimmer switches in the area, try turning them off to see if this resolves the problem. If you are using wireless equipment, such as a wireless router or a wireless phone, these devices can also cause interference to the satellite receiver. Try moving the wireless equipment away from the satellite receiver. You can also try changing the channel that the wireless equipment uses. Your microwave could be defective and not properly shielding the radiation it produces when in use. Have a qualified appliance repair person inspect the microwave. There are tools they can use to detect radiation leakage. Microwaves have internal components to protect them from excess power and arcing. Consider the possibility that these have become defective as well. If any components inside the microwave appear burned or physically damaged, then the microwave should be disconnected and repaired by a qualified technician. This could be a potential safety hazard. When running cable through walls, care must be taken to protect the cable from damage. Cables can be damaged by being pinched, bent, or crushed. If the cable is damaged, it may need to be replaced. When running cable, make sure that the cable is not run near any sources of heat, such as heating vents or pipes. Heat can damage the cable and cause it to fail. The metal satellite dish on the outside of the building should be grounded to the electrical system of the building. This is to protect the satellite dish from lightning strikes. If the satellite dish is not properly grounded, it could be damaged by a lightning strike. If you suspect that the satellite dish is not properly grounded, contact a qualified electrician to inspect the grounding system. Furthermore, the satellite receiver should be plugged into a surge protector. This will protect the satellite receiver from power surges. If you live in an area that is prone to power outages, you should also consider purchasing a UPS, or uninterruptible power supply, for the satellite receiver. This will keep the satellite receiver running during a power outage. If you have recently made any changes to your home electrical system, such as adding new outlets or circuits, this could be the cause of the problem. Make sure that all electrical work has been done properly and that all connections are tight. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, contact a qualified electrician to inspect your electrical system. It is important to use the correct type of cable for your satellite dish. The cable should be rated for outdoor use and should be shielded to protect it from interference. If you are using the wrong type of cable, it could be the cause of the problem. If you're using a splitter to split the satellite signal to multiple TV, make sure that the splitter is rated for satellite use. Using the wrong type of splitter can cause signal loss. If the satellite receiver is connected to the TV via HDMI cable, try using a different HDMI cable. Sometimes HDMI cables can go bad and cause problems. Also, try connecting the satellite receiver to the TV using a different type of cable, such as component video cables. The amount of electromagnetic interference from the microwave could depend on what you are cooking inside the microwave and the settings that the microwave is set to. For example, if you are cooking something that requires a long cooking time, the microwave will be emitting more electromagnetic interference than if you are cooking something that only requires a short cooking time. Try reducing the cooking time or the power level of the microwave to see if this reduces the interference. Check the type of light bulbs used in the room. Some older light bulbs can generate electromagnetic interference. This interference can cause problems with electronic devices, including satellite receivers. Try swapping out the light bulbs for new energy-efficient light bulbs. These newer light bulbs generate less electromagnetic interference. The satellite dish may need to be upgraded to a newer model. Newer satellite dishes are more sensitive and can pick up weaker signals. If you are using an older satellite dish, it may not be able to pick up the signal as well as a newer satellite dish. You could consider upgrading to a newer satellite dish. There may be local sources of interference that are affecting your satellite signal. For example, there may be a nearby cell tower that is interfering with your signal. Or, there may be a nearby radio station that is interfering with your signal. There is not much that you can do about local sources of interference. You could try contacting the cell tower or radio station and asking them to reduce their power output. However, they are unlikely to do so. When running cables, keep them as short as possible. The longer the cable, the more likely it is to pick up interference. Also, try to avoid running cables parallel to electrical wires. Electrical wires can generate electromagnetic interference that could affect the satellite signal. Ensure that the coaxial cable is properly terminated. The ends of the coaxial cable should be properly crimped and should have a good connection to the connectors. If the coaxial cable is not properly terminated, it can cause signal loss. If possible, try using a different satellite receiver. If you have another satellite receiver, try swapping it out with the one that is having problems. This will help you to determine if the problem is with the satellite receiver or with something else. Check the satellite receiver to see if it is overheating. If the satellite receiver is overheating, it can cause it to malfunction. Make sure that the satellite receiver is properly ventilated and that there is nothing blocking the vents. It may be necessary to move the satellite receiver to a cooler location. Ensure that the correct type of connectors are used. Use connectors that are designed for satellite use. Using the wrong type of connectors can cause signal loss. The connectors should also be properly installed. Also, make sure that the connectors are clean and free of corrosion. There may be problems with the LNB, or low noise block-down converter, which is the device that is mounted in the satellite dish. The LNB is responsible for receiving the signal from the satellite and converting it to a lower frequency so that it can be transmitted to the satellite receiver. If the LNB is not working properly, it can cause signal loss. The LNB may need to be replaced. The problem may only occur during certain times of the day. This could be due to changes in atmospheric conditions. Atmospheric conditions can affect the satellite signal. There is not much that you can do about atmospheric conditions. Try using a different satellite. There are many different satellites that you can use. Each satellite has a different frequency and a different signal strength. Try using a different satellite to see if it resolves the problem. Check the firmware version of the satellite receiver. Make sure that the satellite receiver is running the latest firmware version. If the satellite receiver is not running the latest firmware version, it may have bugs that are causing the problem. You can usually update the firmware version of the satellite receiver by going to the manufacturer's website and downloading the latest firmware version. The problem may be caused by a faulty power supply in the satellite receiver. If the power supply is not working properly, it can cause the satellite receiver to malfunction. The power supply may need to be replaced. If you have tried all of the above steps and you are still having problems, you may need to contact a professional satellite installer. A professional satellite installer will be able to diagnose the problem and recommend a solution. They will also be able to properly align the satellite dish and ensure that all of the connections are tight.